Hi everyone, welcome to this Twinmotion 2020 tutorial series. In this one we are going to have an in-depth overview of the vegetation features that we have inside Twinmotion for both the tools and the assets. Let's start by dragging some objects from the library to the viewport. I'm entering the vegetation folder. We'll start with some bushes. To add an object to my scene, it's a simple drag and drop from the library to the viewport, holding the left button on my mouse. Here I just dragged a simple bush. I can drag and drop multiple objects like that. If I drag and drop the same object multiple times, like here I'm dragging the common fern one multiple times, at each time it will be added to the project. It will take a random rotation, a random scale, and a slight color variation, so you won't see any repetition. Also, we align the object you place from the library onto the geometry you are placing the object on. So for example, for a simple bush, it will be aligned to the geometry. But a tree will always grow straight. So for example, if I come to the tree folder, if I drag and drop this Norway spruce here, it will always be upright. And you can even see the roots of the tree depending on the inclination of the geometry you are dragging it on. So this is really basic. It's the drag and drop. It's the way you add any object from Twinmotion into your scene. Now let's talk about the multi-drop. If you select an object, here I will hold the Control key to select multiple objects. Now they are under my mouse. And when I click in my scene, it will multi-drop. It will add the object from my selection into the scene. It's randomized. And same thing as before, every object will take a random rotation, random scale. So it's a really quick way to add vegetation all around your project. And as you can see, all this vegetation is using Megascan data, a photoscan library of thousands and thousands of assets. So now let's talk about trees. With this new version, we completely reworked all of them, pushing them to next generation in terms of quality. So here I will drag and drop the same asset multiple times. The first option that you can notice in the dock is the age option. So here I will just put a young age on the first one, an older age on the third one. And as you can see, it's not just a basic scale, it's really the shape of the tree that evolves over time. So you're just switching that a bit younger. And as you can see here, it's three different trees. And with one smart asset, you can have different variation of the same tree species. Now let's check about season. For that, I will drag and drop a few fruit trees, like this one, and maybe this one. To change season, I will come to the weather section, and here I will change the season slider. As you can see here, when I switch to autumn, leaves turn yellow, turn red, tree lose their fruits. If I switch to the winter, tree get covered by snow depending on their species. And at some point, tree will completely be removed from the trees. And of course, after the winter, we have some flowers on all of those trees. And again, it's really depending on the species. All the pine tree that we have on the background won't be much affected by the seasons. Other than the trees and the bushes, we have plenty of different kind of other vegetation assets. We have grasses, like we have here, we'll see that later. We have rocks. Same thing here, if you want to add rocks to a project, just basic drag and drop, then you can just put it on the ground, for example, like that. And we also have some misc asset where you can find some wood trunk, dead tree, edges, dead leaves, etc. So now let's start to have a look at the different tools that we have for the vegetation inside Twinmotion. We'll start with the scatter tool. Here you have a small phrase that tells you what you need to do. So drop a model here to start adding it to the project. So I'll come to my tree folder, I will drag and drop a few trees like my pine over here. When you drag and drop them here, they are not selected, so the tool is not available. So I just select my trees. Now my tool is available. I will click on my tool, and here I will just simply click on my geometry to add the selected object all over the place, on all the geometry I'm clicking on. If I want to add more density, I can just keep clicking until I have the density I want. If I want to remove the density, we have the eraser as well that will slowly remove the density. And we also have a basic eraser with a diameter that allows you to really be precise when you just want to remove one or multiple trees. This new scatter tool will create a layer in the scene organizer that you can turn on and off. And you can even make more different variations of your forest using this layer system. And you can also keep adding objects to this layer. So here I'm just adding a few bush to my layer. Same thing, I will select my bush, and using my scatter tool, I will just add them to the same geometry I've clicked for my trees. And as you can see here, my layer, I can turn it on and off. So as you can see here, there is no tree planted on my road. It's because this terrain is actually a geometry I've imported from 3ds Max, and I've divided it in two different parts. One part is going below my road, and one part is in the middle of nowhere, where the tree I want them to be planted. So for example here, if I select my geometry, and if I click on Isolate Selection, this is the shape of my terrain that is placed beneath my project, beneath the water level, and beneath my road. That means that if I click here, tree will be planted on my road. And actually, what I did here, I selected the second geometry here on the side. Same thing here. Here is the look of my geometry. And I actually planted my tree just on this specific geometry and not on the first one that is below my road. So this way you can avoid to have any object like vegetation that will be planted through the project. We can use the scatter tool to vegetalize large area like I did here, but we can also use it on smaller area like my roof over here. Same thing here, we'll come to my scatter tool, I will enter the grass folder, and just drag and drop one grass asset, and using my bucket I will just add some grass to my roof. A new option that we have also added in this new version of Twinmotion is the ability to customize grasses. So if I select the grass in my Dropbox, on the right of the screen you may see a settings button. If I click on this settings button, we'll have multiple options. We can change the color of the grass, making it a bit darker green, for example, something like that. We can also change the size to add some more randomness to the grass. And we can also change the dryness, or even add some stripes that will mimic like a soccer stadium, for example. So let's just switch it to what it was in the first place. So when I show you before the trees, I show you that each of the new trees that we have in Twinmotion 2020 have 3 different ages. Basically we have young, medium and adult. And why does that matter? Is because inside Twinmotion we have implemented a new option that we call the growth. You can find this option in the settings dock weather. Here, when you start to raise this option, all the trees of your project will be affected by the growth. So basically you can visualize your project up at delivery and then 5, 10, 20 years later. And you can even plug that in one of your media. So here we just rapidly create a movie, just basic clip with 2 keyframes. I will select my second keyframe, enter the more of these keyframes, select the weather option, just change the growth. And here as you can see, I've created a quick animation that will show the evolution of the growth on my project. Now let me switch to another project to show you a quick tips. In this project here is supposed to be some grass materials, but I've divided my geometry in 2 different colors just to show you how it works. What I will do here is, again, use the scatter tool and scatter some grass in the green area. Coming to my scatter option, dragging some grass, like, for example, let's drag this tall grass over here. We select my tool, I will click a couple of times in my green area. Just adding more density. As you can see here, the grass is leaking on top of the yellow area. If I drag and drop the tall grass, as you can see, it has a wide diameter, around 50 to 60 centimeters. That means that there is a chance that the grass will be casted on the edge and leak on top of the next geometry. This is why I've divided this geometry in two parts, one on the edges and one in the middle. Then I just need to add a material, the same material on the two geometry, and it did the trick. The grass is not casted on the edges and it won't cover my road or my sidewalk. Finally, to present you the last feature, which is the paint option, I'm going to switch to this new project. It's a fairly simple project. Just imported the FBX, which is the road, the terrain, the houses. We have added some decals on the roads and just a few trees here and there. First thing I want to do is to start painting grass on the side of my road over here. So I'll come to my tools, vegetation, I will drag some grasses. Let me start with, for example, this wild grass over here. I will select my tool and I will just start to paint my grass on my terrain with maybe just a smaller diameter. First, as you can see here, there is some green triangle. Those triangles are what we call a preview mesh. Indeed, in this new version of Twinmotion, the grass is casted just around the camera and it's cut when you are away. This preview mesh allows you to see where the grass will be painted. We cut the grass of the rendering to gain frame rate, to optimize the display in the viewport. You can also change how far this grass is casted using this option in the preference panel. Let me switch it back to far. So now my idea will be to add some grass all around my roads. I can start to use my paint tool and paint roughly the grass, but I have some chance that the grass will be overlapped my road. So to better paint my grass, a small trick that I can give you is to isolate a mesh, same as I did with the scatter tool. I will select my geometry, click on isolate selection. I've isolated also my grass, so I can select it back in this isolate mode. I will just raise the diameter of my brush and I can just start to paint some grass on all my terrain. Quick and easy. Now when I will exit this isolate mode, I will have my grass casted all around the place, and it will never cover the roads. In this new version of Twinmotion, the painted elements, the painted grass, the painted layers exist in the scene organizer. It has an eye that you can turn on and off, and you can also change the density after you painted the object. So for example here, if I select my grass, I can raise the grass density. I can even add more objects to this existing layer. So for example here I can add some tall grass that will be scattered all around this layer. I don't need any more to paint it, it's scattered automatically. Let me just lower the density a bit of this tall grass. Something like that is fine. Take a few seconds sometime because there is quite a lot of geometry of grasses casted in this project. Same thing as I did before. Here I can select my grass, change a bit some option like color, dryness, tint. Let's leave it wild. Next thing I want to work on is this field over here. Same process. I will select my geometry, isolate this mesh. I will create a new layer by entering again the vegetation option. I will drag and drop those fields, grasses. Same thing here with my big brush. I can just 1 or 2 click, it will scatter the grass on all this mesh. And when I exit, I retrieve my view with all my project, and if I come a bit closer, as you can see here, all my grass has scattered on my field. Maybe I don't have enough density, so I'm just selecting them back and just changing the density on the fly. And as you can see here on the background, if I enable my preview mesh using the G shortcut, you can see that the grass is well casted on all my field. Finally, let's paint a forest. Same process, just going to the paint tool. I will select a few trees like the sweet birch and this one over here. I'll select my paint tool, change the diameter, something a bit smaller, and I will start from the end over here, just start to painting my tree all around the place. Again, same thing with my G shortcut, I can hide and show where this layer is created. So let's paint some tree on the background, some over the top of my roads over here. Also here I can use my eraser to remove some of them if I want. Also maybe let's change a bit the density of this one. I want to lower the density of the London one. Something like that. Or maybe we can completely remove all the leafy tree and replace them by some pine trees like we did in the first project. Same thing here, I'm just dragging some assets. Raising, let me just remove the density completely of this one. Also, one of the new options that this new paint tool allows you to do is set up the same tree with different ages. So let me just remove the density of all the tree. So here I have my Norway spruce. When I added this tree in my layer, it has been added as its medium age. As you can see here, if I drag and drop the tree in the viewport, it's set to 50%. Now what I can do is enter the settings of this specific tree and change its age. An older version or a younger version. Let me drag now a second time this tree and a third one. The second one I will leave it to 50%, like that. And the third one I will move it up to an adult age. That means that here with this layer I have 3 times the same tree but with 3 different ages. Now let me just add some more variety using the other tree present in my layers. You can reorganize the density of tree on the fly. We can even add some bushes. So if I want to add some bushes, same thing, just basic drag and drop. It will scatter all those bushes on all my layers. You can even add some rocks. Can just come a bit closer. Maybe there is too much density of bushes, so let me remove some of those, and we can fill the gap maybe with some grasses. So let me come to the grass folder, and here we just drag and drop like that, and this one for example, taking a few seconds to load all the data because there is plenty of polygon to cast all over the layer. And that's it. Maybe too much density of this one, so let me lower this down. And this is how the new paint tool works inside Twinmotion 2020. Let me maybe come again toward my roads. Actually, let me raise the density of the grasses over here. And I think that's it for this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks everyone for watching. See you for the next one. Bye.